What if you could walk into a forest and understand every scream, whistle, and hum vibrating through the leaves? Right now, the animal kingdom is a wall of static, a background noise we have filtered out for millennia. But breaking the biological encryption of interspecies communication turns our planet into a massive, overlapping conference call. This isn't about talking to your dog. It is a mechanical decoding of trillions of sensory data points that have been hidden in plain sight. Having this understanding means we are no longer the masters of a silent world. We are participants in a global network of information that is often terrifying, selfish, and overwhelmingly loud. Imagine the scale of this sensory overload. Communication in the wild is not a polite exchange. It is a mechanical survival tool. If you understood the language of birds, a morning in the park would no longer be peaceful. You would hear 1,000 directional beacons screaming about property rights, sexual prowess, and the location of a nearby predator. A single tree becomes a localized server of high-speed data. This is the first open loop. We seek a deeper connection with nature, but the reality is a brutal broadcast of life or death alerts. The birds aren't singing for joy. They are marking boundaries with the intensity of a military radio operator. The most immediate and visible nightmare begins with the collapse of our industrial and agricultural systems. If we could understand the vocalizations of livestock, the mechanical process of food production becomes a psychological battlefield. We would hear the hormonal stress signals and the direct expressions of fear radiating from every slaughterhouse and farm. This isn't emotion, it is a biological distress code that our brains are now wired to interpret. The global economy, built on the silence of the animal world, would undergo a tectonic shift as the moral weight of every burger and leather shoe is vocalized in a language we can no longer ignore. In the oceans, the scale of communication is even more massive. High-frequency whale clicks and dolphin whistles can travel for hundreds of kilometers through the water. If we tuned into this frequency, we would realize that the sea is a crowded highway of ancient histories and real-time navigation logs. But we would also hear the mechanical agony caused by our own technology. Every sonar blast from a Navy ship or vibration from an oil drill would sound like a physical assault to our ears, because we now understand the panic it triggers in the pods. We wouldn't just be observers of the ocean. We would be the unwanted noise polluters in a library of deep-sea knowledge. The open loop of this setup is the realization that many animals don't talk about things we care about. Insects, for example, communicate through chemical pheromones and vibrations that translate into rigid, algorithmic commands. Understanding them wouldn't be a conversation. It would be like reading the raw code of a computer. You would feel the collective hunger of an ant colony, or the singular murderous intent of a spider waiting for a vibration. This is the mechanical reality of the food chain. Every interaction is a calculation of energy and risk. The intimacy we expected is replaced by the cold, hard logic of the hunt. Our relationship with the domestic world, our pets, would also undergo a physical restructuring. We expect "I love you," but the reality might be a constant stream of demands for resources or confused status reports. A dog's language is heavily weighted towards smell and spatial awareness. Translating that into human words would reveal a mind that is constantly mapping the world through chemical signatures. We would learn that our pets don't view us as parents, but as high-functioning resource centers. This clarity doesn't bring us closer. It strips away the human projections we've used to fill the silence for centuries. If this understanding became a permanent biological feature, the human species would be forced into a state of extreme isolation within its own cities. We would build noise-canceling bunkers not to block out traffic, but to block out the desperate pleas of the rodents in the walls and the birds on the roof. The conversational intimacy of the planet becomes a weight that crushes our productivity. To survive, we would have to develop mechanical filters to re-silence the world, creating a digital barrier between our ears and the billions of voices demanding our attention. The final result is a planet where the human ego is physically shrunk. We move from being the only thinking voice to being one of trillions of screaming, survival-focused minds. The show Don't Tell of this new world is the sight of a person walking through a field with their hands over their ears. We survive by retreating into a silent, artificial shell, leaving the animal kingdom to continue its brutal, vocalized war in the forests and seas. In the end, understanding animals isn't a bridge to a peaceful garden. It is the destruction of our greatest luxury, the ability to ignore the cost of life. The result is a world where every step through the grass is an intrusion into a conversation we were never meant to hear. Life ends its phase of human-centric quiet and becomes a permanent, global roar of data, where the only thing separating us from madness is the mechanical integrity of a pair of earplugs.